So in terms of matters arising, this is a survey we did last year in terms of just what has been your greatest parenting challenge. You're asking parents this. We had 340 responses. These were the parents who signed up for last year's Parenting on Track class that we held. And number one was lack of family time, and then there was excessive use of gadgets. There was sibling rivalry between my kids, personal mental health challenges, financial constraints, marital discord, discipline issues, and lack of meaningful spiritual life. And so as you look at this, please mute yourselves when you come in so that we can have a clean recording. Thank you. So when you look at this, first of all, the greatest concerns, I don't know what is your concern. And of course, if you join the Parenting on Track class, we'll still be checking in on you about this. But excessive use of gadgets seems like it's a major concern for parents who are probably parenting in this time and age, just because we are digital natives, but we are digital immigrants in terms of we came to technology, but our children are digital natives, they were biology. And then we can see the other concern is 132 in terms of financial constraints. So just our families being in this space where this space is not totally together. And then top 3 was lack of meaningful spiritual life. Yeah, to just feel like probably this space of God and where he fits in our family may not be clear for some of us. And all these are places that we'll be journeying in the leading generations. And of course, I shall be telling you more about it. And then number 4 was lack of family time. So probably we are professional families. We are so busy. We are busy moms and also busy dads. And sometimes just feeling like we're not spending enough time with our kids. Yeah, and then of course the others, you can just see the scores are at around 80s. But whatever, probably whatever is very important for someone was probably the discipline issues, just having that concern as one of the things that probably you're struggling within parenting, or even sibling rivalry, but it really drives parents crazy when our children are not getting along. So whatever your space and whatever your struggle is tonight, even as you're here, we just want to be mindful and to just be aware that these are spaces we are in, these are realities we are facing, and we are journeying together. And so glad you're part of the community. And then the other matters arising was about attending the masterclass together. So we had 329 responses, and you can see there was a huge response in terms of the no's. Like one parent was going to attend the class, and then maybe was also quite huge. Only 22% of the people who responded were sure they would be coming together with their co-parent or their partners or their spouse. And of course, there's also a concern that we are really empathizing with you if probably there's a space you're struggling in. Sometimes you may even be married, but you guys don't just see eye to eye in parenting matters, or probably in terms of what is your priority, just empowering yourselves and understanding more on how can we journey together as parents. And me and James were also disjointed in this space for quite a while until we managed to do a parenting class together. That is around 4 or 5 years ago. And when you think about this, it's also that part of empathizing in terms of parenting consciously by just understanding this is not a perfect space, but God can still help me raise amazing children. And of course, to just understand that God is also coming alongside us in our parenting efforts. Like we are never alone. And we really want you to be conscious about that as well. As we're having this conversation, just be aware that God is partnering with you. And then, sorry, let me go back. I really love this quote. It's one of the anonymouses online in terms of in a society where we have a whole generation that was taught you will never be enough. It is nearly impossible to convince the same people that their parenting is good enough. And I don't know whether this is your story, especially myself just being conscious that I was born, and of course me and James are in the millennial space of parenting. And these different generations that are parenting, we have different messaging in terms of what we were told about ourselves and about children and about family and about even our competence. And of course, if we grew up with parents who didn't believe in us and you always grew up feeling like you'll never be enough, like the bar was set so high, then even when it comes to parenting, we keep on feeling like, should I do more? Should I do less? Am I doing it wrongly? And we always have this inner critic in us who keeps on probably judging us. We keep on judging ourselves. We keep on second guessing ourselves, even when we probably feel like we've done our best. And this inner critic is such a real space that we're struggling in this time and age. And there's a research that was done called the Open Generation that was being launched last month. We had the privilege of attending with James, and they're just talking about we are raising children who are open to everything. They are open to other religions. They are open to technologically, they are open to try and dating even as young as 9. They are open to sex. They are open to trying different things. And I'm really hoping that all of us over time, you'll be able to get the book I did that we were launching this past weekend called Reconfidence, Get Your Ball Back. No, not Reconfidence, called Leading Generations, Parenting 21st Century Preteens and Teens in Africa. There's a whole chapter there on sexual experimentation and how it's a big deal in this generation, in terms of even trying different things, trying different sex, weird related kind of things. And this is a space that we cannot keep on running away from in terms of our children are experimental. Even when they go online, they want to try different things. They want to just keep on being out there. And one of the other things about the Open Generation, it's the fact that our children are also in this space where they are open to everything, also in a positive way. They are open to career options that are probably unheard of. They are open to trying different things in terms of their abilities and talents. They are open to even associating with everyone, and they are very inclusive in their approach to life. And so all these things are also presenting dynamics that we've never experienced before. And our inner critic, because it's an uncomfortable space, can really, really, really just get on our nerves. In a way, we keep on getting on our own nerves. We keep on second guessing ourselves. We keep on doubting whether we are doing anything the right way. And like we've said, it's because our children are also digital natives and we're digital immigrants. And so just be aware of this. And I want us to do a reflection. So I want you to sit up if you can. If you're driving, please don't sit up. We don't want any accidents on the road. But if you're in a comfortable place, probably you are at home, maybe just sipping your chai there as you catch up on this. You can sit up and then we just do a reflection. And I want us to breathe in and breathe out so that we can give some airtime to our inner critic. It's important for you to just be aware where you are. And so just want you to close your eyes and allow yourself to feel your body. And then I want you to breathe in very deeply. And then breathe out. Breathe in very deeply. And then breathe out. And then I want you to give some airtime to your inner critic. What have you been thinking about yourself as a parent? What has been your greatest fear, your greatest challenge, your greatest struggle? What are the areas of self-doubt that you're aware of in terms of those places that you feel like you don't have it together? And we each have voices in our heads. There's someone who said that we talk to ourselves a lot. And another one said, if you talk to other people the way you talk to yourself, you will not be having a friend. Because sometimes we are so critical in our attitude and our voice and even our words towards ourselves. And so I just want you to be aware of your inner critic. What is that voice telling you? What does it tell you about yourself? What does it tell you about your children? What does it tell you about the world? What does it tell you? Just be aware of all those voices. And then also I want you to be aware of your own voice. When you're not criticizing yourself, what do you tell yourself about yourself? What do you tell yourself? And then when you're talking to others, probably your teacher, other parents, a teacher in school where your child goes to, or probably someone who is just mentoring them or journeying with them. Maybe some of the clubs your children are in, the extracurricular activity. What do you tell others? And also, what do others tell you? Sometimes the inner critic has been formed by the feedback we've received from others or our self-perception, which we communicate to others. And so do we have people out there who think we are doubtful? They think like we should try harder. And maybe sometimes we are the ones who give them those undertones of messages about us. What do you tell yourself about other people? Sometimes you feel like there's someone out there who is better in even raising your own children. And there's a season I felt like that. Like there was this friend of mine who really loved my daughter. He will just be there and just doting on her, really being nice and kind to her. And there are times I will be feeling like, I think I should give her my baby. Seems like she's doing a better job than me. Especially I really sucked at being a mother when our kids were small. And of course, sometimes James could also point it out, and many times he would really help me and support me. But there are those times you're just alone and you have to wing it and you really feel inadequate. And sometimes I will tell my friend that. That's why I was saying sometimes we usually feed the inner critic. And the inner critic also dictates in our relationships in terms of what we tell ourselves. We tell other people about ourselves. So I'll be like, I'm not a good mom. I think I'm not doing enough. You are actually better with my daughter than me. Look at the way she likes you. And also, what do others tell you about yourself, about your children, even your spouse or your co-parent or your partner or just the baby mama or baby daddy? What do they tell you about yourself and your child and your parenting style and your parenting probably skills? And then, of course, the other thing, which is our main conversation for tonight in conscious parenting, is how can you reparent yourself? How can you show up for yourself? How can you be kinder to yourself? How can you be more empathetic to yourself? All those are strategies of reparenting yourself. Just keep on being conscious that I'm not perfect, but at the same time, I'm probably doing my best. I'm being faithful. I keep on showing up even when it's so hard. Some of us are probably struggling with our mental health space, and sometimes it's so hard to parent it when that space is not together. And we just send hugs to you tonight. And so whatever your story is, just that consciousness of you can reparent yourself. And it's a whole journey of self-consciousness and of course self-mastery, which is just a matter of self-awareness, which we're hoping you will build tonight, and of course in the sessions that are coming up. All right. So I'll just keep on muting guys as they come in. I know Jemo is also helping. And so the first point, even as we think about conscious parenting, it's the fact that parenting flows from within. I parent from who I am. I parent from my abundance or scarcity. That is how I show up to my kids. And number one, in terms of where I flow from my personality. Some of us are strong-willed, some of us are chilled parents. And of course, you remember the personality type. Some of us probably know about temperaments, and you'll just know how those parents are different. There's a perfect parent. They want perfection. They want everything in line. You know, they want all the ducks in a row in their house. They want everything in place and everything neat. They want children to play without messing up anything and without even scattering their toys around. Like, it really drives you crazy. Some of us are also the fun parents. We just think about the fun part of life. And sometimes we forget the serious parts of, I'm the one in charge here. And then some of us are probably parenting from a place of authority and calling shots and strong leadership. And some of us are just chilled parents, and we are laid back, and our children really enjoy, you know, like all those spaces. And all these spaces have their own advantages and disadvantages. And one of the things that we encourage is that every parent will do personality test. You even do a personality test together to just remind yourselves, we are just different. There's nobody who is really wrong in how they show up. It's just about how do we minimize the dynamics of our personality that affects our children, that affects our efforts, that probably we keep on self-sabotaging ourselves as parents because of how we show up. And so your personality is a gift. And of course, your children are also different from you. So how do you work around all these dynamics? And of course, when I look at probably our two last children whom we probably raised from birth, they are quite different from each other. This one is happy, lucky go. The other one is serious and straight face. And you will see the dynamics of parenting them will be totally different because they also have different personalities, and we shall be learning more about that in the Parenting on Track class, which will start next week. And then the other thing is your childhood experience. Sometimes we parent because we are trying to heal ourselves in the process of parenting, especially if there was childhood traumas. And then also the other thing is the childhood experience in terms of what I loved about my childhood, I keep on wanting to replicate. And that is why sometimes it's challenging to just see how much what was fun back then is no longer fun right now. Whatever we would be excited about, our children are not as excited about. And so our childhood experience also is a place we flow from in terms of what were even the things I used to dream about and desire when I was a child. And then when I think about my children, I want to have that as a priority list. So probably if I never had enough fun like myself, I grew up in a very strict household. My dad will tell us to sit down somewhere where there was a patch of grass in in our home back then. We were living by then in Eldoret in a place called D10. So it'll be like, and then mkae pale mpaka niende. So we will really feel like there was so much restriction in playing, and he will be so serious. He will find us playing. He will be so unhappy. He will be like, kama hamna kazi mwende mkalale, or go and read. And so every time we'll see dad, we'll pretend we are reading or sleeping. And of course, for me growing up, like one of the things I realized is one of my values, even when I think about money, is my children having fun. And so that will also show where my parenting flows from. It also flows from my childhood experience in a way. I would want them to probably have more fun than me. And then the other thing is your self-awareness. Parenting flows from that space. Have you done therapy sessions? Have you been to parenting classes or training? Have you probably worked with an expert in parenting to just help you understand your children better? You know, all these are places we parent from, because your self-awareness is as far as you'll go to help your children build their own self-awareness. Do you read books? Like, what do you do to add it to your cup? Because we can no longer ninja the way we were. Like growing up, you'll be like, these are my children, I know how to raise them. Honestly, we don't. And that is why we have this as one of the tribes that you have. Some of us probably are in churches that have amazing programs for parenting. Some of us have gone all out and invested in parenting classes, you know, and we are hoping that this space of leading generations will also give you those opportunities to just be in different spaces in very low cost programs that you can invest in to just learn how to upscale your parenting. And then, of course, your parenting style. And James will be taking us through this in terms of what is your parenting style and how does it show up? How do your children experience you? Because we have different parenting styles and they are informed by all these other places. My personality contributes to my parenting style. My childhood experience contributes to my parenting style. And of course, my self-awareness also contributes to that. So before we go there, this title of The Struggle is Real. Right now I'm doing a devotion and it has this title in terms of The Struggle is Real. And so when I was just thinking about this, I was like, yeah, the struggle is real. And these are places that we struggle a lot as parents. And we're just going to run through them quickly before we do the parenting styles. So number one is the personality differences. Personality differences is a place where the struggle is real, and it can be such a place of high conflict, especially when we are probably different personalities. Like in our family, James is the structured parent, I'm the unstructured parent. And sometimes it can be so frustrating when each one of us are showing full on with who we are. And the other thing is personality differences is my child or my children or your children or your child, they can have a totally different personality from you, which can be very frustrating. For example, you may be this happy, lucky go parent, and then you're raising a very structured child. It can be so uphill. Sometimes I also catch myself in those moments that I'm really feeling frustrated parenting our son, because he's a very structured child. He likes doing things for himself. So sometimes we are late. I'm just feeling like I'll beba him juju and kavalie viatu mbele, but he's like, no, I want to wear them. I want to leave this house when I'm neat. Like I remember one day I actually had to take a video to just calm my nerves of him trying to tie his shoelaces. He's 3, and then we are so late for school. And he's like, no, I can do it myself. He actually loves using that word a lot. And it's a personality, because for him, there's perfection, and he also believes in creating that perfection himself. But on the other hand, our daughter is just the chilled person. You know, me and her can go for window shopping and we buy nothing after roaming around for 3 hours. You know, we just have our life just like that. But sometimes our son will be like, no, I want to stay in the car. I don't want to go anywhere, you know. And so those personality differences can be such a struggle in parenting. And for you to just understand that they're not wrong, I'm not wrong, we're just different. And then the other thing is upbringing experience, especially if we have unresolved traumas. Maybe you've gone through life-changing experiences even when you're young. And one of the things I always encourage parents, especially in this space of conscious parenting, never ignore anything that happened to you, because even if you don't deal with it, it still flows and it seeps through. There's how we are made of permeable boundaries. And the child in me that probably was not properly parented, or they went through painful incidences when you're growing up, they still keep on showing up in one way or the other in a way that hurts my children. And like personally, there are times I've caught myself, you know, just growing up in a place where I was never allowed to express myself or to share my opinion. And then sometimes when I feel like my children are too opinionated, I actually catch myself trying to come into this space of, I'm the parent, you're not, so you listen to me, you shut up, and I'm the one who's talking. And of course, that is upbringing experience. And so many other things we've gone through. Some of us are overcompensating to our children because of probably the painful life you went through. And so sometimes you overcompensate in a dysfunctional way. Because what happens in those times of overcompensating, you end up loving your children in a way that hurts them, because our children sometimes don't even, I remember like I've written all this in the Leading Generations book, and there's a survey I did in 2016 with some children who are from different schools. We engaged at around 6 schools, and then I remember one school that is in what is this place, Eastlands. And one of the children, we were asking them, what is your giant? What are the things you're struggling with? He actually said, it's my gadgets. Like, I have so many. Sometimes I feel anxious to just pick which one I should use. And of course, probably that is a parent who is absent, trying to overcompensate and engage their child, overstimulate them. So probably they can find them still busy by the time they're coming back from work. And so this place of sometimes my upbringing experience, I overcompensate to my children in a way that is destructive. And then of course, my own inner struggles. Sometimes parents are going through mental health crises. We are going through so many work-related stress. Sometimes you've lost a job, or you're going through a demotion, or you just have an impossible boss, you're working with difficult colleagues, all that. By the time I'm coming back home, I'm depleted. I don't have the strength to deal with a child who is throwing a tantrum. And so sometimes these inner struggles of also me going through transitions in life, probably we have a difficult time of our marriage with James. And these inner struggles reflect in terms of how I parent, and our children will notice probably how different things are in the different seasons. And then adulting responsibilities, we have bills to pay. We have mortgages, we have so many things. Like, you're just an adult, hakuna time ya kulamba glucose. Life has just to keep on going and going and going. And sometimes these adulting responsibilities, the fact that I have to just do some things because I'm grown up, I have to wake up whether I feel like or not, all this can also be a struggle in parenting. And so some of us probably would love to sleep in, but like recently we put our children back on the bus, they are picked at 6 or 5, whether I had a bad day yesterday and I'm struggling in the morning, like I have to wake up, like that is just part of adulting. It's a no-brainer, regardless of how I'm feeling or how we are feeling or how our situation is. There are just some things we have to keep on showing up for. Some of us have to pick the kids from school. Some of us are in these adulting responsibilities where we've even given up a career to just be there for our children for a while as part of adulting, because we're just like, our children needs an adult at home, and one of us has to do this, or probably even sometimes some of us, because we don't have a job, like adulting responsibilities can just be it. And then the other thing is marriage challenges. This one is so huge. And honestly, the conversations I've had with so many children, sometimes usually think they don't sense it or they don't experience it. And like, there was a parent who was like, Paps, we don't fight in front of our kids. I was like, even worse, because sometimes they go out there, they can see a functional marriage, they can see people who love each other, they can see couples who are affectionate towards each other, and then they come home and they can see robots and people who are so technical in how they relate. And of course, our children keep on questioning what's wrong. And especially when they come to this place where they are 12, they're able to make sense of their reality, because now they're forming their own reality beyond your home. And so in those times, the reality really hits them hard. That actually my parents are not in love, maybe they are headed towards a divorce. And of course, sometimes marriage challenges, the struggle is real when, like, maybe some of you are like me and James, we've ever exploded in front of the kids, we were arguing, raising our voices, and just getting all emotional and confrontational, and then it really becomes destructive to them. And I remember, like, our daughter, even recently, she just raised up an incident that happened when she was 5, and you are like, yeah, by the way, this is something we are journeying alongside. And so marriage challenges affect children more than you can imagine, and that is why it's important to just keep on working through it, keep on having difficult conversations, go for therapy. Don't just assume like our children don't even know what is happening. And one of the things I love mentioning is psychologically the conscience or the consciousness of a child by the time they are 5, it's to a great extent developed. And by the time they are 6, they can really remember things that happened, but way back then. And we cannot ignore and just say, yeah, they are in preschool, they are in PP1, or maybe they are in the top class, they don't know what's happening, they will just knock out of it. Even when we have probably violence in our marriages and relationships, they can see the tension, they can hear the sarcastic remarks we are making and all these things. And sometimes it's not just bringing them along by explaining to them things and you're like, yeah, by the way, dad cheated on me, that is why I'm behaving like this. No, that is not child appropriate. Just get even the family therapist to just come alongside you as a family, to just help you know how to journey through, even in the spaces of co-parenting, just keep on taking that journey together. And we are not honest in a way that destroys our children. We are honest in a way that helps them in terms of, yeah, by the way, yeah, that was not fine. I know I shouted. I know probably I hit mom or I hit dad. It was not fine. Like to still have those conversations of reassurance and just bringing them alongside. And in the book I've done, The Leading Generations, you will see all this in different chapters, including even family disruptions. When they happen, probably you're going a separate ways. How do I bring my children along in that conversation so that I don't leave them behind? Because sometimes marriages can be solved because we have irresolvable differences and we can't stay together anymore. How do you journey alongside with your children in a way they still survive those phases and still come out functional regardless of how our marriage situation is? The other thing is unrealistic expectations. The fact that we have the ideal children in our head, we are the ideal parents in our head. This is how we want to show up, and we really feel frustrated by the reality gap. The fact that this is what I want and this is what I have. Kwa ground even your vitu ziko. And of course, it can be really challenging when our reality gap is so wide. And sometimes it's just about asking yourself, what is reasonable? What is realistic for us in our family, even in this season? First of all, parenting is different seasons. And there is an article that I've also done. It's pinned on my Instagram page at Paps Wanyugi. And that article talks about how we need to adjust our expectations as families, especially people who are raising their children in urban cities. You need to adjust your expectations. Probably you will never earn all the money you wanted. You will never be able to do all the things that are on your to-do list. And adjusting expectations is asking yourself, what is us being a functional family? What does it look like? You know, how can we come to a place of contentment so that we flow from that instead of a place of ambitions and disappointments that we might get to the end of our lives still chasing? And honestly, it's been moments of heartbreaking sometimes, just sitting down with children who are even grown up and looking at how their parents worked hard, chased the American, the millennial dream of owning a home and a fleet of cars, you know, and just having unlimited money to spend, retire at 40. And by the time they are 40, they come to that space where they're raising teenagers or even sometimes older or younger children who are really broken, you know, abused by house help because I was never home. Yeah, like just recently having such a conversation with a parent where a child who is around 16 is stuck at something that happened during some 2-3 years when they were really successful in their professions. You know, they were really successful, both of them. And then he's like, I was neglected, I was abandoned as a child. And we are handling that trauma with this 16-year-old. And of course, inviting the parents into the conversations so that they can also share their side of the story in terms of, we didn't know all this was happening, and it was such a healing moment to just see how God restores families even through such situations. But at the same time, can we start adjusting our reality and just have realistic expectations of each other? Even the fact that there are some seasons that both of us will not be working or will try to be home, like currently me and James have just this arrangement where we don't have a house help. One of us has to be home to pick the kids at 4. Sometimes it's so crazy. There are times we've even asked the bus, or even the times we're even using motorbikes, and you're like, please drop them at our friend's house, who lives a bit of a stone throw distance away, and then we'll come and pick them on our way. But this commitment in terms of, yeah, we really want to be realistic about, first of all, the vision we have for our family. And we shall be taking time probably later in the year to do family vision, especially for next year, so that we can just set ourselves in a way we are planning what we want to see instead of just hoping for the best. How can we plan vision for our family, plan for every child, plan for probably even our time and what we do and what we don't do and what we stand for as a family? How can we create an inspiring family philosophy? You know, what are the things we want to achieve month by month? So we shall be having those moments probably later in the year. And then, of course, the other thing is unhealthy comparisons. Just the fact that we are on Instagram and all those other places, our children are also comparing us. You know, they are busy saying like, this one does this one does this. And for example, we had this situation where the school fees was really, really hiked in a way we couldn't afford the school that our kids was in towards the end of last year. So like this year, I was also going through a transition where I quit employment to come back into full-time coaching. And so we just had this buffer period that we were not sure about our finances, but at the same time, we were just like, no, we're not going to change them schools. And so what we did was to take them off school transport and take them off school meals. So we'll make food, they will carry food from home. And of course, the unhealthy comparison is my daughter coming on day 2. She's like, hey, mom, I think Nani, all my best friends are not carrying food. I'm feeling a bit weird, a bit awkward. And of course, we really had that conversation in terms of her identity. How can you learn in future? Let's assume, and of course, we were like, mommy, this is a temporary situation. And we've already explained how things have changed a bit. We have to manage this. But then there was also that conversation in terms of how can you learn to be your own person without necessarily comparing yourself with other people? Because this is not just about the food, it's also about how you feel, probably insecure because you're comparing yourself. Because our son is a preschooler, the teacher was also like, I know you should not let Yaniv carry food. Hakuna mtoto anabeba food kwa class yao. We were like, no, let him try. And he really loved, especially the first day he went to school with his cute lunchbox. It has Minion on it. And all the children were fighting. They were giving him, yeah, please, Yaniv, share with us. They were giving him their apples and everything because they wanted his home food. So he felt like this prestigious guy. But then when it comes to unhealthy comparison, it's because our children also learn from us. They can see us comparing ourselves. They can listen to the conversations. They can see our attitudes. You know, they can even hear probably they can see the undertones of even our ambitions and the things we want to achieve. And sometimes there's that unhealthy comparison. Of course, there's the healthy comparison where we really want to get better. But the unhealthy comparison is where what I am comparing myself with leaves me feeling insecure. I'm insecure, I'm afraid, I'm unhappy. And so I'm hoping for something else or to be someone else or to be in another space. And our children can sense all those dynamics. And then, of course, the last thing is parenting styles, which James is going to handle now. And when you think about parenting styles, the struggle is really just because we are so different and we're raising the same children. And we are hoping for the best that they will turn out right in spite of us. All right. So Jay, go on the parenting styles.
All right. I think I will be really quick because we have 15 minutes. We want to keep time.
Okay.
And yeah, thanks for sharing. And that was so insightful. And also, I think that that place of sharing about what we did with our transition. And basically, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a financial advisor with a regional company. And one thing I like, I don't teach what I also don't do, because sometimes we get into pressure of going into debts, trying to maybe get into situations, but sometimes it's also good to ask ourselves, like, how do we manage where we are? And I think where we came to, like, can we withdraw them from the school bus and do school meal, which saved us quite some amount of money. But right now we are back at the same place, and yeah, they are back to the school bus, they are back to the meals, and yeah, they are happy about it. But again, it's also good to say that it's good to look at where we are. We gauge, like, are we able to adjust this percentage so that we can be able to afford it? But rather, can we still do what we have been doing and also try to maneuver with what we have already? Yeah, so I will go direct to the parenting styles, and Najua, wherever you hear, like, I'll go through and then you can see, like, where am I? Therefore, we have permissive. Oh, sorry, I should be, now I was talking from the head. Now let me refer from the slide, the authoritarian parent. That is number one. We have the passive, we have the permissive, and then we have the authoritative. And I know the authoritarian and authoritative may look same, but I will go into details to actually explain how each one of them comes in, and then we can reflect and figure out where we are. Yeah, so number one is the authoritarian. And I can say this is a very rigid parenting style. And this is where we use stern discipline, often justified by tough love. And this is in the attempt to be in full control. And authoritarian parents often talk to the children without wanting input or feedback. It's either my way or the highway, but ndio perhaps anapenda kuiweka. And authoritarian, one way that you can be able to pick whether you are an authoritarian parent, the traits are the high demandingness and low responsiveness. Like, I demand, do this, do that, go there, like, it's what I think is right, rather than what what I think, like I don't allow feedback. And another trait is to notice about an authoritarian parent is they enforces strict rules with little consideration of their kids' feelings or social or emotional and behavioral needs. Maybe if you don't see yourself there, maybe you can see whether you were there when you were growing up. I think most of us grew up in this kind of parenting. And the other trait of another, please forgive me, I'm trying to get this word right. Yeah, the authoritarian parent is another trait is that they often say, because I said so, like mtoto akikuuliza why, juu nilisema, you don't want to come to the middle ground when your kids ask a question or when they demand a reason behind a rule or a consequence. And some of these maybe we'll come later. I think it's in the next class or the other one where we tackle where each child, they are in their own growth, what can I say, mileage, and there is a age penye watoto uliza so many questions. It's why. So if you are an authoritarian parent, you don't give them any feedback on what is happening. Yeah, so another trait is that communication is mostly one way from parent to child, and that is it. Yeah, so I will go very fast. The other one is the passive. And passive means this where the parents are most likely to take on a friendship role. This is totally opposite. And rather than a parenting role with their kids, this where a parent prefers to avoid conflict and will often, like hautaki kukuwa na conflict yoyote na mtoto, and whatever they say, yes, yeah, like you don't negotiate with them. Yeah, it's fine, you do whatever you think is right. And these parents mostly allow their kids to do what they want and offer limited guidance or direction. And what are the traits? So that now we try to see whether this is where I am, because again, self-awareness is good, so that when we move forward, we are moving forward knowing where do I stand as a parent. And sometimes maybe, and I think we were here with Paps because one of us was like, ukidiscipline mtoto, that is too much, nini. Like you are never on the same page, so that this self-awareness will bring us eventually to a place where we see everything from the same page. Yeah, the trait is that high responsiveness and low demandingness. Now, this is totally opposite from the one that we started with, authoritarian. Low demandingness, like you don't expect, you don't ask anything from the child. And number two trait is that they communicate openly and usually let their kids decide for themselves rather than giving direction. Whatever they want, it goes. That is a passive. Yeah, and then the other trait is that rules and expectations are either not set or rarely enforced. Hakunanga sheria, hakuna expectation, tuko pale. Yeah, and then the other one is typically goes through great lengths to keep their kids happy, sometimes at their own expense. Yeah, wenye tuko hapa tunajiona. So I will go now to the next one. No, that is passive though. So I will go to the no, this is permissive. Sorry, guys. I think I'm too fast. That is the permissive. And then I will go to the passive. So hope you guys are getting it. I hope perhaps can be getting some thumbs up. If I'm too fast, please let me know.
Yeah, we're
Please
getting
let
you,
me know.
Jay.
Okay,
Yeah, you're okay.
okay. Great. So I will go to the next one. It's the passive, and sometimes it can be called the neglectful parent. Wale wacha ikae. Yeah, so this sometimes referred to as uninvolved parenting, and this style is exemplified by an overall sense of indifference. Neglectful parents have limited engagement with their children and rarely implement rules. They can also be seen as cold and uncaring, but not always intentionally, as they are often struggling with their own issues. And these are places where maybe mtu akona issues, maybe mental health, maybe something is happening in their life. And sometimes there are people who are here not because they this is the parent that they are, but maybe there is a lot of pressure on them. Things are just not right, or maybe there is a loss of balance in some situations, and maybe they're not aware of it. And the traits are low responsiveness again, and hakuna demandingness again. And then another trait is to see that there is their kids mostly fend for themselves. Unapata watoi ndio wanajipikia pale kitchen indomie, they chemsha, they do stuff, and then they saw themselves. And then the other trait is that it offers little nurturance, guidance, and attention. Unapata mtoi hata their situation that they are struggling with, but no one is noticing. And then the other one is that often struggles with their own self-esteem issues and has a hard time forming close relationships. Yeah, so again, I will ask us to reflect and see whether again we are there. If we are there, again, this is another place where actually to seek help as a parent, because maybe you could be going maybe some issues, but you're not aware, or actually you are aware and you feel you have given up on parenting and all that. Yeah, so I will go to the last one. This is the authoritative. Najua mnashindwa like, we hapa hakuna pahali kuna hope. Authoritative parents are nurturing, supportive, and often in tune with their children, and they guide their children through open and honest discussions to teach values and reasoning. Kids who have authoritative parents tend to be self-disciplined and can think for themselves. Yeah, and these maybe you can see where now the whole balance of everything, because now it's not authoritative, it's not authoritarian, and again, it's not passive, but there is both the way. That is one of the traits. There is high responsiveness and high demandingness. Yes, I demand what is right, but again, I'm listening to the children. It's not a one way. And then the other trait is that these parents also set clear rules and expectations for their kids while practicing flexibility and understanding. And these are places where you realize, by the way, hey, I think this is too hard for them. And then you tell them, by the way, let's continue with this tomorrow, or maybe you give a hand, and then, or you show them around and to make sure they are comfortable. And these are places where again, there is a communication, there is a frequent communication, and this where the parents also listen to and take into consideration their children's thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Yeah, so hapa ni ile tunasema it's a democracy. By the dad, you said this. Kitambo hatukuwa tunauliza maswali. Ukiangaliwa na macho, it's enough, not even communication. But these are place where mtoto wanakuambia, by the way, hey, I think that is unfair, dad. And you come in and tell him, by the way, I'm sorry, there's this and there's a blah, blah, blah. So these are place where they feel they are listened to, they feel they have a say. And then the last trait on this one, it allows natural consequences to occur. For example, kids fail, watoto wakianguka mtihani when they didn't do their study. Yeah, you sit down with them and then you tell them, by the way, maybe this could have been the problem and all that. So you show them their consequences with decisions in life, but uses the opportunity. But again, tunatumia the opportunity to help our kids to reflect and learn. Where yes, we take them through you have gone through the consequences of ABCD, but what do you learn out of that? Again, it's not me telling them, by the umeona usomangi, like not blaming them, but letting them learn from every situation. But basically, I'm trying to save on time, and I think that is it. If it's not clear enough, maybe I can share some notes on the group. Yeah, if you guys didn't get it right, I can share maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Yeah, so that is it for the parenting styles. And I think I will end it there. Perhaps on your side.
Jay. Thanks, Jay. That was very helpful and illustrative. So probably we can answer the questions that is here. How are you parenting? What is your current parenting style? Just the way Jemo is saying, sometimes we are in different seasons. And so where you are at today, probably we can just share on the chat. Where do you feel like you've been in, like even this week? This week, has it been your way or the highway? Honestly, personally, I've been feeling like I've just been this authoritarian parent, especially this and past week with the book launch pressure and everything. I was just feeling like, yeah, there were so many times that I was not mindful in terms of how I was talking to the children or responding to them. And I was conscious. Sometimes I would really be apologizing I remember even on Monday, I was just like, you guys, on Monday, I'll be free and then we will have this conversation. We will catch up. We will go out together. Yeah. And probably just checking yourself, like, where have you been this week? Some of us are probably going through a difficult season and you feel like the way Jemo was saying, you're just a passive parent. You're just feeling detached from the kids. You don't feel like you're present as much as you would love to. Some of us are permissive parents, especially when you're going through a struggle. We can find ourselves allowing our children and giving them too much freedom. In a way, that freedom also becomes destructive, like they can do whatever they want. And then, of course, the authoritative parents, some of us are probably here and we are here stably. Please feel free to own up as well. We really celebrate you. If you're the authoritative parent and just feeling like you are leading them strongly like God. And I really love this space of authoritative parent because it's parenting with boundaries where my children know the limits, they play by the rules. We all know what to expect of each other, even in our family. There's clear expectation. There's the cause effect in terms of we allow consequences to also happen in that space. And, you know, regardless of where we are, we're actually just coming to this place of consciousness. You just want to be conscious that this is where I am and to just be mindful so that we can keep on assessing also our progress and just how we'll be doing after the 4 weeks of being in this class together. I'm waiting for you guys on the chat. So which parenting style do you feel like you've been in which mode this week? Even if you had like 2, you can probably just point out the 2, or if it is 1, and you can just feel free to share in terms of maybe you are the authoritative parent. Feel free to also share that and inspire the rest of us. I'm waiting on the chat. All right, there's one parent who has offered. Yeah, this is very honest. Lucy is saying, this week I have been a mixture of all. And I don't know whether sometimes you also find yourself in the dynamic of you are parenting different children in different styles. Probably there is one when you're feeling like they're weak and vulnerable, or maybe they're just going through a hard time and you find like you're permissive with that. And then there is one when you're feeling kichwa ngumu, so you're putting your foot down on them hardly. Yeah, but then sometimes you can actually be in that dynamic. And we are just doing this as part of conscious parenting because we just want to be conscious in terms of where we are at. Wanjiro says, I think I'm largely authoritative. Wow, we really celebrate you. And but this week has been a mix of authoritarian and authoritative. Yeah, go for it. And Redmi, authoritarian, but working towards become an authoritative parent. Wow. Celine Damari says, I can't tell. Thanks for being honest as well. And then Mrs. T, I'm an authoritative parent. Yeah, thanks for being honest. Leah says, I've been all at different times. Yeah, thanks for being honest as well. Gladys says, this holiday, I have been all over. Had a lot of my hands, but I'm largely authoritative. We celebrate you. And Becky, this week, I was authoritarian. Baka, my son was asking, why are you not listening to me or ignoring me? Yeah, my son has also told me that a lot this week. Thanks, Becky. We share some commonalities on that. Awesome. Yeah. So we want to wrap up. Let me just run to the next slide now. And when you think about conscious parenting, these are the 4 places we are hoping we'll be able to journey through as families, together with our children. Like we are able to come to this place where we understand these 4 things, which we become more intentional and we live out these spaces. And we shall be sending out these assessments to those who will sign up for the class so that you can get to do assessments on these areas and just know where you are at. And so in conscious parenting, number 1 is love language. You need to understand how everyone feels loved in your family. And it's just that aspect of a child who needs quality time, they do not accept gifts as a compromise. And so when you understand, like, my child's love language is probably physical touch, then they need more hugs, they need more physical presence. If my child is a quality time, it means that I need to spend time, even if it's just 5 minutes, focused on them every evening or probably every morning or even on weekends. Like, you become more intentional to understand and to just have that intelligence that I have different children, they have different love needs, and I need to show up for each one of them according to how they feel loved. And so sometimes, like, for example, when you were growing up, all of us were given gifts, where Christmas, and then of course our parents hoped for the best. Probably they were only speaking the love language of one child. And so it's important for you to understand what are the love languages in this family, how do we show up in different dynamics, and how can we be mindful and conscious about what everyone needs. Like, for example, my daughter really loves physical touch. My son doesn't. He doesn't even enjoy the chums and everything. For him, it's words of affirmation. Wow, good. Look at me, mom. Look at me, mom. So when you look at that, it's just about understanding the dynamic of how do I show up for each of my children, like for every child, in a way that really blesses their heart, because I'm very mindful. And of course, if your child is above 12 years, you can get them to do the assessment for themselves so that you can just figure out their love language. If not, you can do it for them. So the links that we'll share with you have both options, where you can also just look at your child in terms of and guess what is the best way to love them, what are the things they appreciate. And then the number 2 is personality test. Can you guys also do personality tests in your family? And then just discover, like, how do we show up? How are we different, and how are we also beautiful in our differences? And personality tests are so helpful. Like right now in the coaching program I do, we take children who are as young as 9 through personality tests so that they can just discover some bit of enduring character traits they have, and just their natural wiring and how God has wired them, so that they stop feeling weird. Do you know, sometimes just because of the personality differences, there are children you are more inclined to, you're more easy with, because sometimes you even share personality. But then the child who is different from you, most of the times you really feel like you conflict with them, because they have different needs, they have different opinions, they're just different how they show up, they have different energies, which can really probably affect your own energies. And so it's important for you to do personality tests as a family so that you learn to respect everyone according to how they are. And then the other thing is gift assessment. We need to also do gift assessment to just know how do we show up as a gifted family. And gift assessments are so powerful because there are families that will end up serving more together or allowing each other to serve differently, because we are gifted differently. And so when you look at the gift assessments, it's just also being able to look at the resources in our family so that when opportunities come, we are able to see, like, we are going here to support probably Crystal, or we are supporting Yaniv, we are supporting Karanja when you do this activity because it's more important to them. And it's something that will be more of their gifting. So we are coming and rallying around them, and we are rallying behind them because we want to support a cause they are passionate about, they're interested in, and also in a way that is manifesting their giftings more, because we are all gifted differently. Even as parents, we are gifted differently in a family. And so understanding the gifts that we have then gives you an opportunity to see yourself as having more gifts, because different members have different gifts in your family. And then finally is the growth plan. It's important as a conscious parent to also have a growth plan for your family, for yourselves as parents, and probably even when you're married, in your marriage, have a growth plan in terms of what do you want to do to keep on growing. And so you learn together, you have mentors in different areas of your life, you become more intentional in terms of, we'll come back home on this time, or we'll do this activity weekend, just to be more intentional. Like probably we will be screen off, and then we will do Scrabble, or probably we'll do Monopoly as a family on Sunday afternoon. That is part of intentionality, because conscious parenting is being able to show up, especially for a child who values quality time. Then they really need to do something with you, and in a way that you are focusing on them. And then the child who probably loves acts of service, I'll be more intentional to serve them. I'll be more intentional to do things for them. And then the one who loves gifts, I'll be intentional to budget for a gift for them. And so intentionality is now the part of growth plan for your family, for you guys to choose and make decisions and be conscious that you want things to be different. And then, of course, the last thing is feedback. Can you ask each other for feedback? Can you ask, like, even how your children experience you? There are times we've done this with James, where we're like, why then, mommy, where do you think I should change? Or Karanja, where do you think I should be probably be more mindful in terms of how I'm dealing with you? Always ask for feedback. Your children always have feedback, and sometimes they don't know of a good time to give it. Yeah, there are times we'll even have gratitude circles in our family where we'll just be sharing what we appreciate about every family member. And it was such a meaningful time to just hear so many good things about you that you didn't even know your children or probably people that you live with think about you, including when your spouse or your co-parent. Like, what do you think is probably, what do I do well? What do I need to improve on? Keep on gathering feedback. That is part of mindful and conscious parenting, because you're able to see how your clients and your key customers are experiencing. You know, the way we have customer experience, you fill in a feedback form. We need to do the same thing in our family spaces. All right, so we're coming to a wrap, and these are the upcoming events that we'll encourage you to also plug in. Number one, we would like to start Leading Generations Prayer Circles, and this will be happening bi-monthly on Thursdays at 8 p.m. So we'll just want to meet together and just come to this place where we really want to see God involved in our families. Honestly, with everything that is going on around the world, and I know some of us are probably very skeptical with the Mackenzie thing, and Pastor Ezekiel, you're just like, should we even be praying? Should we be fasting? Or we should just eat year long after people are dying in Malindi over this? Is it Malindi or Kilifi? And of course, when you think about leading generations, it's just also enacting and trusting that God is so powerful in our families, and to just put him in the center of it. Today, I had an opportunity to visit my mom with a friend. So my mom moved in Nairobi because she's going through dialysis. Her kidneys were just at 6% 2 months ago, and we didn't have a choice. And today when we went, of course, during the book launch, I also shared a bit vulnerably in terms of my struggles as a suicidal teenager and all the challenges that I went through. And I was just telling my friend, you know, I was a broken child in the family that I grew up in. But honestly, I'm so grateful for the power of a praying mother. I just feel like all that I've become and all that God has helped me and how God has journeyed with me, it's because of having a mother who prayed us up. And so probably sometimes she was even part of the challenges of our upbringing, part of the challenges in terms of the environment that we had. And of course, also just inevitable things, because I was not a perfect child. Probably I made many mistakes even when I was a teenager. Yeah, just making bad decisions, choosing wrong friends, and all this. And then I look back, and these are so many years later, because I cleared high school in 2000. And I'm just like, I really thank God that I had a prayerful mother. My dad was probably not in that space, but then just having my mother who really travailed for us. Sometimes she would even force a family fast, and she's like, everyone is fasting. When we were teenagers and we're just going crazy and rebellious, she was like, tunaanza fellowship hapa, when ndio utahubiri na wewe na wewe na wewe, when ndio utalead worship leo na wewe na, like she created a roster randomly. And then we were just forced into this thing. She was just like, I remember in her own words, when she's feeling like we are driving her crazy, we were 2 years apart. We have 4 children who are 2 years apart, actually 1.5. So you can imagine the Doremi, one born in 80, 82, 86, 80, 84, 86, and then one in 92. She was like, mi sitakaliwa na shetani. She said that in Kikuyu, nidi wikariro ni goma, you know. And then from that time, she was like, we are starting a Bible study here. And honestly, looking back, looking at how God has just journeyed with us graciously, like this, in spite of what happened back then. And even right now, probably some of us are feeling like, is my child damaged goods? Like probably we are going through such a difficult family situation. There's so much power in us coming together and just praying for our generations, because there are some things that only God can move. There are some wounds and some traumas that even our children have gone through that only God can heal them from. There are mistakes our children will make, probably right now or in the future, that only God can redeem them from. And so just coming together and having these prayer circles will be a beautiful way. And if you are here, probably you lead prayers or you'd love to be part of this, please feel free to DM me or James, and then we'll just add each other on the rosters. We shall be just doing it as a tag team. And we just come together and we ask ourselves, what are the promises of God concerning our children? Can we just pray through those? And we shall be starting this 2 weeks from now. So we really encourage you to consider just being part of this. We shall be coming on Zoom to just pray. And we shall invite many other parents. Let's just come and pray for our children, especially right now with everything that is happening and with all the fears and concerns we have. And of course, even the challenges and the struggles we are going through as families. Because I mean, when the devil also attacks our marriages, attacks our income, attacks all the other places, we become so weakened, and we just want to come together and bring our fires together, bring our strengths together, and just call upon the name of God, who is able to go into the future, go into the past and heal things that we cannot, even go into the future and just make a way for our children to probably have a better upscale and uptake than we do. And then we shall be having a couples day. This will be a retreat that is coming up on 20th March. It will be in a retreat center called Amali in Tigoni. So if you want to be part of this, we will share a link on the group, and then you will just get to sign up. You can come with your spouse and just have this time together. One of the missions that we have with James is just trusting God to heal marriages, not because we have a perfect one. Actually, we've gone through so much drama, and probably when you're doing the Naked Couple, that is the platform that we run the parenting and the marriage programs in, it's because we just share out of our drama and out of what we've gone through and out of the places that God has really brought us out from. And those are the spaces we still want to create in terms of just seeing God's redemptive plan working through our situations. And then we'll have Parenting on Track. This is coming up next week on Tuesday. It's a 4 weeks masterclass. So if you want to be part of this, we invite you. It will be starting on Tuesday 15th, that is next week, from 8 to 9:30, where we shall be looking at 5 areas that you need to track your child's growth. And it's because we say, like, just the way we used to take our children to be weighed, kilos, and they will also get weighed, like they will also be measured in terms of their height. It's the same thing. Can we do that for our children's spirituality? Can we do that for our children's emotional health, mental health? Can we do that for their social health? So we shall be giving you pointers and even tools that you can use to track your child's growth in those areas so that you can be more intentional to nurture them in places that you're feeling like they are weak, and also strengthen them in the places, and also probably in the places you're feeling they are strong, to keep on encouraging them and leveraging on those strengths to help other family members. There's so much power in our children, and especially when there is that awareness. And this program is also Parenting on Track. It's something we also do for children in terms of taking them through Teens on Track or Preteens on Track. And so even as we're doing it right now, probably when your children come back for their okay, let me just mute Kalechi. When our children come back for holiday in August, we shall be running this again. And then probably if your child didn't manage to do it this past holiday, we'll be taking them through this. And it was so powerful being with teens in a room. I remember they were around 7, and just being with them in a Zoom session. And they were like, yeah, by the way, I'm really feeling like, I need God to give my life meaning. That is such a blessing to just hear children who are also desiring God and feeling like this is a path that I've never thought about before. Like, I need to grow spiritually and I need to take responsibility for my own spiritual growth. It's not my parents' responsibility. But then it's important for you to understand this, because maybe you have more children and then you might be having younger children in a way. If you do this program, you'll be able to lead the younger ones early. You'll be able to track their milestones early, because our program covers children who are 9 and above. So if you have probably below 9, you'll be able to see what you can do to support them. And so we encourage you to consider joining us for all these things that will be coming up. Yeah, and we will really, really be excited to just keep on journeying together. Also, in terms of just inspiration in the group, we'll be having probably schedules where we can even post inspirational things in terms of what we are learning and just our own wisdom. I believe everyone here is amazing. Everyone is wise. It's not just me and James. This is a community we are creating, but we'll really love to hear from you as well in terms of what is your brilliance. What are some of the things we can learn from you? We'll just want to learn from each other. All right. And so that's it for tonight. And so next week, we shall be starting Parenting on Track on Tuesdays. If you'd like to join, please do. If not, then we will be expecting to see you in 2 weeks so that we can start the prayer circles. And so we shall be looking at 5 milestones. There are actually 5 key milestones in your child's life and how you can journey with them in those different areas and the assessments you can do. We shall also be sharing during the next class the assessments for all these love languages, personality, gift assessments that you can take together with your children to just discover where you are at. And even the ones who are in boarding school, probably when they come back from the holiday, you can loop them in and just have that as one of the quality family moments. It's usually revolutionary for your children to also understand you better, because some of us, our children judge us, but it's just because they don't know how we show up. They don't know who we are. And so them discovering also, it will give them a lot of goodwill towards just who you are. Instead of them feeling like you are wrong, they'll just realize, oh, mommy is different and daddy is also different. Probably I prefer daddy because he's more like me, or I prefer mommy because she's more like me, but then daddy is also unique or mommy is also unique. It's really a moment of breakthrough, especially if you're raising teenagers. This awareness really, really improves and heals relationships. Awesome. So what is your take home today? Yeah, we will take time to just share on this, and then I'm going to play a song. And then, of course, after this song, we'll just take time to pray and just commit all these things to God, even as we trust God to be the conscious parents, and we trust God to heal our generations and just restore and build things back. Do you know there are things that only God can do in our lives, even undo? Because there are some things we are not happy, we are not proud of what is happening in our families. And we are not minimizing the power of God tonight to just heal and restore those places. So even as we worship, I just want us to just release and surrender it to God. And I want to do a song that is called Father Me, to just see God as our Father. And I really love the language family that is used in the Bible, even when the disciples are not sure of how to pray. And then Jesus is like, when you pray, say this, our Father who art in heaven. Like, God is a God of families. God delights in your family. God wants to support your family. God wants to be part of your family. And even as you're thinking about this song of Father Me, forever you Father Me, for you to remind yourself, you don't belong to yourself. You also belong to God as a parent. And as you're fathering, as you're mentoring, as you're mothering your children, God is doing the same for you. He's the one who is fathering you, mothering you. All these attributes of God are shared in the Bible. There's sometimes God has shown up as a mother eagle, that is a feminine space. And God is able to meet all these things in terms of the dynamics of our soul's needs. And so we just want to remind ourselves that we love the way God is fathering us. And even through the difficult things that we've been going through, some of us, to just trust that God is able to work everything together for good because he's a good father. And the Bible says, if your fathers, as wicked as they are, they know how to give good gifts to their children, how about your heavenly Father? And tonight we just want to tell God, we love the way you're fathering us, and even how you're journeying with us through this difficult season. Some of us are going through so much hell right now, and you can't see any end in sight. But one day you will look back and you will be so glad that you trusted God, you allowed him, you partnered with him, and how amazing our children will turn out. And we'll be so grateful that God is the one who did it. We will not feel like it's because, I'm an authoritarian parent or I just do my stuff well. I'll just be reminding myself, were it not for God being my father and being their father, we will not be here. And that is such a humbling space to find ourselves in. So as you're doing this song, just remind yourself that God loves being your father. God loves being the father of your family. And God also loves seeing you also do what he does to you when you're raising your children, when you're being there for them.
So how did you take it, on this shift?
Let's
start with the mother. Okay, I also took time with the son, just encouraging him. He was down in the kitchen.
Mute the parent who is sharing. I hope the song is coming through on your end. Yeah, someone can give me a heads up. And as we are listening to this song, you can just be sharing your feedback as well in terms of what stood out for you this evening. What have you learned? What have you enjoyed? And then we shall come back and pray after.